Hey guys, it's your host Julian. This week I'm sitting down with two Disney veterans, Jim Baker and Pierre Gordon, to talk about the good old days at Disney and their new project, The Adventures of Slim and Steve. Just as a heads up before we roll into this episode, this one was recorded a little while ago and it was before the name change for our podcast, so you might hear our old one from time to time. I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons that help support this podcast. Bill, Brent, Eight-Legged Bird, Jacob, Jordan, and Monique. Thank you all so much for your support. It truly means a lot. If you want to become a member of our Patreon channel to help support this podcast and get all these episodes early and ad-free, check the link below and sign up today. Now, let's get to that chat with Jim and Steve. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What's My Head podcast. I'm your host, Julian. Today I'm joined by Steve. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks very much for having us.
Oh, thanks for reaching out, man. And Jim, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm very good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, very rarely do people reach out to me to say, hey, I'm working on something. I would love to come on your show and talk about it. And I'm always happy when this happens because it makes my job easier, because most of the time I'll either watch something that I grew up on or somebody will recommend something. So I have to imagine that this would have been recommended probably by my friend Brandon Jones, the Animation Destination podcast, because that guy knows anything and everything that's coming out. So as soon as your new program that you guys are working on releases on YouTube, I'm sure he would have saw it, and I'm sure he said, you got to talk to these guys next. So I got to know, first off, how do you and Jim kind of meet together? I mean, how do you guys become friends? We'll start there and then we'll go to what you're working on.
We should get both stories, see how we remember it, if we're like the same. What do you got, Steve? What do you remember?
I remember I was just starting out as a rep-in-betweener in one of those buildings off an airway section, and you came in with Joe Hadar, and you guys introduced yourselves and stuff. That's the first time that I had met you.
Oh, you hadn't met him before?
I think I had met Joe, but he came over and was introducing you. I think you're kind of new, just like me.
That's it. That's I don't know if you know Julian, if you know Joe Hadar.
I don't know.
You've heard him. He'd be a good person to have on the podcast. He animated on a ton of stuff on Roger Rabbit, the Genie, tons of stuff. But he was kind of my mentor, so he really kind of got me into Disney. And when I first got there, he was kind of taking me around, and Steve's like walking across the street, and we were both just fresh at Disney. And this is 94, so this is like August probably 94, and Steve was working on Fantasia.
Yep.
Right, which was pretty early days because that lasted for a long time.
I worked on the whale. The whale sequence is what I was working on. I was animating a big ball of seagulls at that time. It said, "Welcome to Disney."
What were you working on, Jim, at the time? Were you on Fantasia as well, just coming onto the new set?
No, so Pocahontas.
Pocahontas.
And I kind of got in cleanup, and right after I was there, they gave a test for rough in-betweeners. And so I kind of quickly moved over to that, much to probably, I think Renee Holt, probably had something to do with getting me in and cleanup, and then all of a sudden I was gone. So sorry, Renee, if years ago. But yeah, so now I was rough in betweener, and I got to work on, pretty much we worked with almost everybody, like on the movie. So you got to work with tons of different animators, tons of different styles. Some of the people are real clean, and then I got to work with Glenn Keane, and obviously he was all this incredible drawing, but it was neat because it was like you'd really get just thrown into it and have to kind of match everybody's style. So yeah, it was a great time. And
I have to imagine it's pretty cool for your experience. Pretty cool as an experience, and then coming in at such a young age, and then such a young animator in your career too. You're getting to work with titans like Glenn. I haven't had too many Pocahontas stories on here, but the one that I have had, excuse me, and it was with Tom Cito, and he was telling me how he had gotten the legendary John Pomeroy and the legendary Glenn Keane. They were both working on John and Pocahontas. They were working on the scene, and they were trying to act out the scene where John and Pocahontas kiss for the first time. And he said a bunch of the Tom was like a bunch of us animators. We were trying to get Glenn and John to kiss. So we went up to him and he was like, "We don't know how to make John and Pocahontas kiss. Can you guys act out, since you guys are the lead character designers on these ones, can you guys act out this kissing scene for us?" I don't know if it ever happened, if lips ever touched, but that is my favorite Pocahontas story that I got to hear from Tom
Oh man,
Cito.
that's awesome.
Uh, yeah. So with that being said, man, you guys are very young. How old are you guys when you first get onto in '94 for the Disney set?
Well, so we weren't fresh. So
No,
because there was, I don't know if you know Bert Klein.
no.
He was there at the same time. He was like 18 and had worked on, I forget where he worked in high school. He was like professionally kind of while he was in high school working on stuff. So he was like this 18-year-old kid. I was like, holy
Mhm.
crap, this guy, he was really good. Um, but I'm thinking 24, 24 or even 25. Um, and then Steve, you're a year younger, so but right around
Yeah,
there.
I started when I was 23. There was an internship that I was in first, and then yeah, 94 I was 24. That's when I kind of started actually doing actual work.
Was the dream
Yeah,
for
so
both of you guys
I think,
Disney?
yeah, both Disney.
That was the dream for both of you guys. You guys wanted to get
Oh
to Disney?
God. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Well, at least for me, it was that's all I wanted to do. I went to Cal Arts and just kind of looked at all the Disney films and talked to all the animators that came through here. And Chris Buck was actually my teacher, my
Mhm.
animation teacher at Cal Arts, and I got to work on Tarzan later on. And he was, obviously the director on that. And I looked at him when I was showing one of my young Tarzan scenes, and I go, "This is just like school, isn't it?" It was just exactly like it. We're sitting in front of the monitor. He was reviewing my shot, and I was going, "Man, there's no better education than Cal Arts than this."
That's
yeah,
cool, man.
for me, it was kind of different. I had a kind of different idea of what I wanted to do. I loved stop motion when I was
Hmm.
growing up, and Ray Harryhausen was a big hero. Um, so I was doing in college. I was doing stop motion. Like I did a dinosaur film. Build all the puppets, the armatures, all that stuff. So when I kind of went out to California, I had a lot of my film was that, and then I had drawings and things, but I happened to meet Joe, and he went into the studio, and I remember I met like Nick Ranieri and a few other people, and I had my reel, but it was that, and it was the time they were doing Nightmare. Well, like when I first met those guys, and they were like, "You should go up there," I'm like, "Yeah, they're not going to make any more of those. That's like the only thing." I knew this was a great opportunity. The ironic thing is there's more feature stop motion movies made every year than 2D movies anymore. But yeah,
Kind of funny
I
how
mean,
that
it
kind of
was,
comes back around.
yeah, I was very lucky, as because I hadn't gone to Cal Arts or one of these schools. So yeah, I was very fortunate to kind of stumble into that, you know.
Now, with that being said, usually I wait until about halfway until I ask hypothetical questions. But hypothetically, if you go back in time, would you stick on that Disney at that time 2D traditional animation, or would you have tried to pursue a little bit of that stop motion?
You mean if it like the 2D didn't go away, like when it went?
Yeah.
I At that point I was pretty ensconced in it. Like I was like, I think we all kind of thought we were just going to be there like
Hmm.
for forever. And there's one thing Chris said on Chris Sauve said on your podcast was about uh, having experiences with the people you work with,
Hmm.
and we had, this is the best people. So we had so many great times. So yeah, you didn't really, I don't know, you were just kind of in it, and it was like the next movie was going to be a different style and different, characters. So you're always kind of like, I didn't think I was going to jump back to stop motion at that time. No.
Right on. So
Yeah, I
we
thought we were
heard.
going to be at Disney forever.
So what made you think that you're going to be at Disney forever? Just because you loved the aesthetic, you loved the people, you loved what you guys were doing? I mean, what was it that spoke to Disney about you?
I love the quality that they had, just the kind of the fun acting, you know, and you get to
Mm,
reinvent yourself with every film that comes out. You get a new character, just super talented people, and I just loved animating. It just felt like it was like almost magic still. You know, you'd flip
hmm
those drawings and you would see it move, and you can just kind of feel it inside of yourself, and thinking about performances, and it was just a lot of fun. At times I can go, there's nothing I would rather do right now than do these little drawings and kind of just feel these characters just kind of move around and fly across the page. It was a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of
So
work. I'll guarantee you, it was definitely a lot of work, and Disney was the king of overtime.
Yeah, but
But
they
at
paid.
times it was awesome.
They paid overtime.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So with that being said, I love stories about first days because we can always remember almost every one of our first, anything, right? Insert any kind of real scenario. So Steve, let's start with you. Do you remember that first day of checking in to Disney and what that atmosphere was like? Do you remember what it was like going through your head and like, oh shit, did you feel like a fish out of water? Did it feel like home? What did it feel like? What do you
Well,
remember?
they kind of eased me in just a little bit since I went through the internship, you
Hmm.
know, and it was a real small one. They usually had them in Florida, but I think the rumor was that they made it for Tom Gately. I don't know if you know who Tom Gately is,
No, I don't know.
but he was a real talented young artist, and they said that they wanted to kind of bring him up a little slower or something. So they took three other guys, myself, Mark Andrews, and his brother Brian Andrews. So it was
I
just
know
a
both
real
of them.
small group, and it was Bill Matthews that headed it up. And so it was just kind of, we got assignments and we got to watch movies, and it wasn't, we didn't have the pressure of deadlines or any of that stuff. But yeah, once I got my real scene and they said, okay, this is what you're going to be doing. Yeah, there was a little bit of butterflies, and I was a little nervous. And even though they brought me up slow, doing it for real, you know, it just kind of changes things. But I was rough in betweener, and Bill Racinos was my animator, and I only worked with him pretty much, and he was super nice, and he was real casual, so he made my transition just real easy. And also, like I said, I was working on little tiny seagulls, animated, kind of flying in a ball around
Hmm.
the whale, so they were like no bigger than my thumbnail, so it was kind of hard to screw those up.
So something I want to circle back to. You said two names that I'm pretty familiar with, mainly because they worked on my favorite cartoon show of all time, and that was Samurai Jack. Brian Andrews and Mark Andrews.
Oh yeah.
Um, Now with I had Brian on a couple years ago. I haven't had his brother Mark on, and he was like the before I had talked to him, everybody described him as the action guy, the martial arts guy. He knew like every form, he knew every stance, and all this other stuff. That's what made Samurai Jack stand out so much at that time in particular, Cartoon Network. You got any fun Mark or Brian stories before we move up to Jim and ask him about his first day?
Yeah, I was at Cal Arts, and both of them were in the class ahead of me,
Hmm.
and Giddy was in my class, so I think
Hmm.
that's how Brian knew Gindi to do all that stuff. So they had already had a relationship. But they used to make these live action films with a whole bunch of friends
Hmm.
in their class. Did you ever hear about that? I
No, I
forgot
don't think so.
exactly the name, but they were awesome. And they would have premieres of Mark and Brian and Stu and another friend of theirs that they grew up with, and you know, they would it was kind of like a martial arts meets John Woo, but they
Yeah.
were kind of real self-aware and self-deprecating at the same time, but super cool. So if you
Hmm.
can ever find those films, I'm sure Brian has them, I'm sure somebody has them. And we loved it the first year, and the second year it was so popular that they tried to get everybody in the animation department to have like a cameo or something like
Hmm.
that inside the film. So you'll probably see a lot of animators when they're like in their 20s
Yeah.
and all that, kind of acting in this live action film. That'd be crazy to see that thing now. I was gone at that. I think I was visiting somebody, so I didn't get to get in that film. But anyway, if you can get that film, that would be great.
Oh, that'd be really cool to see.
Mhm.
Brian, Mark, come on, release it.
Yeah,
Going
please.
going back to you, Jim, man. What was your first day at Disney like?
You know, and I'll tell you what, I don't quite remember my first day, but I do remember, and I don't know if anybody's talked about this, but to get into Disney, like to
Mhm.
get into cleanup at that time, has anybody told you about how you did it?
No, no.
You had to have a portfolio and all that. They looked at your portfolio, but then, at least on Pocahontas, they called us in. Like you went in to do a test, to actually do a timed uh, test. So it was in like these little trailers, and there were like 3 or 4 of us next to each other with desks, and they go like, basically. I mean, they didn't have a watch, but it was like that was like time begins,
Mhm.
and you're like, and I remember they had, yeah, a few different styles, but the whole thing was timed. So I mean, you haven't really done this professionally. You've practiced,
Mhm.
but you're just sweating. I just remember being so nervous and going like these guys probably went to Cal Arts. They probably went to Sheridan. And I'm just like, uh, so yeah, I had no idea when I finished that, like what, if I even did a good job, because I think I almost blacked out. It was like so intense for me.
You remember how long they gave you?
I don't. It's probably an hour, is my
Yeah.
guess.
Bet you it
And you
didn't
had to
feel
do a
like an
certain
hour at
amount of
all.
drawings. Yeah. But I just remember it was like, it felt like a competition because you had people, in the same room doing the same thing. I was like, oh, it's
How long
intense.
after that? How long after that do they tell you like, hey, you got it, or hey, you're in? Do they tell you right away, or is it a waiting period?
No, because they would review them. They'd
Mhm.
look at
The
the
line
work,
work.
the
Yeah.
line work and everything. So like maybe a week or two, and then yeah, and then I heard, I was like, oh my god, this is insane, because I had never envisioned it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in it. Um, and I do remember, again, I feel like I'm harping on the CalArts kind of Sheridan thing, but I do remember being a little intimidated when I first kind of went in, because I did think, wow, these guys have been
Went
doing
through the
this for
ringer.
like for college. But it was all great, and yeah, so many great artists there. That you'd walk around the walls. Steve, you remember this? They just have like artwork everywhere, and it was so inspiring. You just walk around and be like, oh my god, so many different styles and all of that.
Inspiring and intimidating.
Yeah, both.
So I can
Hey,
imagine, man.
did you know when I was at CalArts, I put my portfolio into Disney, and they gave me an animation test
Did they?
for Lion King, and they told me to animate a lion running, walking, and then stopping.
Oh my
And
god.
I was I shit the bed on that test. I said, I'm never gonna be working at Disney. It was just so intimidating. I go, I've never animated a four-legged character and
Oh my god.
like a
That's like the
lion, and it
hardest
was
thing in the world.
it was back in the day when you couldn't like get what do you call it? You couldn't still frame stuff, and all you had was the myridge book, and it was just full of horses. Where am I going to get a lion thing? Learn how they walk and stop and stuff. I barely could do a walk cycle, it seems. And yeah, so I said, oh, that's it. I better start getting my portfolio ready for something else. That's when they called for the internship, and I got a little bit lucky. But that was pretty intimidating too.
Is there any way you still have that?
The test?
Yeah,
Oh man, it was immediately burned.
man, I would love to
I'm
see
gonna
that.
go in the archives over there and just hunt it down. And I'm sure they threw it in the trash as soon as they saw it. It
Because
was
I
crazy.
I have a I have a test, like when I was at Disney. Like, so once you got into rough in betweening, it was like you tried to do some animation on the side to kind of move up. Um, and it was with Simba, uh, and I never even shot it, but I still have the drawings somewhere. So I kind of want to. I mean, this is at the beginning, so it's probably horrible, but I want to shoot it someday and see what it looked like.
It'd be cool to see the progression of where you were at then 30 years ago to where you're at now. So I think that'd be cool. That's something really cool. You know, we've had this talk a few times with other guests, man, like social media, especially with artists, right? You know, social media going back, you know, 10, 15 years, whatever it might be now that I can't remember when Facebook was started, like 2009, 2010 maybe. So almost 15 years now. But going back and looking at some of the artists I follow when they started posting their first pictures and going, wow, that was really cool 15 years ago and looking like what they do now. I'm like, holy shit, that's like night and day difference. So it'd be really cool to see, you know, that Simba cycle that you got laying around you. If you got it and post it or share it over, man, it'd be really cool to see how far you've come in your career. You know, I wanted to circle back to something you said, Steve, because I found it so funny. You like, no, I had to burn it really quick right away, get rid of it. Would they let you guys, like, whenever you guys would do a pencil test or an animation test or anything along those lines, would they give you guys a copy? Would they give you guys the originals? You guys wouldn't be able to take the work home with you at all, or?
No, I only have one or two scenes that I've ever done for Disney, but only because I Xeroxed them
Hmm.
and I kind of changed the size, you
Hmm.
know. Otherwise, I would hand it in and I would never see those drawings again. I think Glenn had it in his contract that he could keep all of his roughs.
Hmm.
And I have one cool story when I first started at Disney, just rough in betweening, and Glenn's office was right in front of me. And I went over there and I go, hey, you got any, you know, advice or anything like that? And yeah, he goes, sure. And he gave me the original drawings from Rescuers Down Under,
Oh
where
wow.
Cody was just slipping and sliding in the water and everything
Hmm.
and falls back. He goes, go and Xerox those and peg those up. So I had his original drawings from that amazing scene in Rescuers Down Under and Xerox him. And he goes, just flip through them and just kind of feel the energy and start animating on your own and just kind of get a feel of motion or where the body is taking you within these drawings and stuff. And I just thought it was just amazing just to look at these drawings from this artist that I grew up just really admiring, and that he would take the time to give me some drawings that are from one of those iconic scenes, you know.
I was gonna say, so you gave him the Xerox back, right? You kept the
Right.
original.
Exactly. I wish.
So,
There, I mean, there was. I don't know if anybody's talked about this, but apparently some people absconded with some scenes from the ARL, I think, or
No way.
drawings. You've never heard that?
No.
Like I mean, of older stuff, not of like ours.
But
Um,
back in the day, though, I mean,
back in the day. But I
was
mean,
it?
like before, because I think before we were there, I don't know. It seemed like the Wild West, maybe in the '80s. I don't know, but I've heard that some people got some, some milk calls or whatever. Um,
That'd
but
be
yeah,
amazing.
we didn't get to keep anything. Like Steve said, you either Xerox it or you had drawings that you kind of redid. So we have, I mean, I have some stuff like that where I do have drawings that are from the scene, but then I ended up either redrawing them or something changed. But I kept some of those drawings, but not like whole scenes. Um,
it, it's always been
yeah,
a fascinating thing because there's so many folks that I've had on from board artists to the animators, the background, and depending on the show that they were on, and then I don't want to say the you know the budget of the project, but I mean obviously Disney's they're notorious for keeping everything that they do. And what's cool about that is there was so many studios back in the day, Hanna-Barbera, J Ward, UPA, that would just throw their shit away or they'd wipe cells clean because it was saving money. You know, so what I loved about Disney holding on to all of their stuff is they got this museum of everything that they've ever done, and there's not a company out there like that, and that's just it's such a cool little thing because I was just talking to a board artist named was Pilar Newton. She worked on Courage the Cowardly Dog. I was asking her because she was showing me Xerox copies of the board she was doing. And I was like, where are the originals? And she was like, well, if we're being honest, probably in a landfill somewhere, because most of the time they would take these things and just toss them. You might have somebody that would go out and collect them all or put them up. But she's like, the studios didn't want to keep a lot of the stuff that we were working on. I'm like, God damn, that would be so, like, you could make so much more money on the side by having a museum or having this traveling art show of just all of these beautiful shows. You could pin them up. I mean, that's a piece of my childhood. It's the same thing with Disney. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys can look at cartoons that you grew up with, and it'd be just amazing to see the fact that, Ollie put his pen to that one. He put his pencil to that one. It'd just be cool to see something along those lines. Obviously, I just throw that name out there. They have everything, Ollie and the Nine Old Men did, in a safe somewhere. But it'd be cool if they had that forethought and a little bit more money in the budget to keep that stuff and get new cells
Yeah.
and get new pegging paper and all the other stuff. So, but nonetheless, man, I did want to circle back to one more story, Steve. When you said you walked into Glenn's office, and this one goes for you too, Jim, because you might have one too. When you guys would walk into people's office, obviously Disney is known for keeping all of their artwork. I heard this really, really cool story. It's not Disney related, but it'll transfer over to Disney in just a second. Neil deGrasse Tyson, when he would run I can't remember the museum he runs up in New York. It's the big one, but he's essentially got Van Gogh's Starry Night up in his office, the original. It's behind the plexiglass thing. It's armored and all that other stuff. Would any of the animators, the big guys like the Glens, the John Pomeroys, would they have, or would they have it around Disney where they would have, the original scene or artwork pinned up or framed up anywhere, or was that stuff taken away and put into warehouses and stuff like that? Would anybody have any of the original artwork hanging up in their office other than the rescuers and stuff like that?
I don't think so. Uh,
No.
Xeroxes, like
Yeah.
everybody put Xeroxes of, inspirational stuff up.
Hmm.
But I mean, a lot of people collected art um, beyond that kind of art. Is I know a lot of animators and story people and directors are fans of like illustration art, all that stuff. So yeah, but I think everybody probably kept that at their house. Like,
Yeah.
there were, I
Probably
mean,
best.
saying that maybe there were a few, but I can't recall it. Um,
Do you ever go to the archives and check out a scene and look at it?
I got them to give me one of my, not give me, but digitally give me one of my scenes. Um, when I kind of went back, I think on Bolt, the movie Bolt, for CG. I went back and there was a scene in Emperor's New Groove that some reason they chopped it in the middle of the scene. So there's a weird jump, and it was a nice scene. And I was like, this is crazy. Like I'm like, I don't have I had a really bad old VHS kind of, or however we did it. I forget. It was maybe on a Mac we would shoot, but it was like 8-bit looking, just terrible looking copy of it. So I went in and they actually took all the drawings and scanned them. So
Which
that's
scene
pretty
was it?
cool. It's a scene where they're in the diner.
Oh,
It's
I
like
love that
Cusco
fucking
and
scene.
Pacha, and
Just looking up and then looking down and looking up and then they look
yeah,
over. I love that whole fucking give and go play. That's such a cool
it's a
scene.
ton of fun. Yeah, so it's like a back and forth. Cusco saying a lot of these lines, and yeah, I was like, oh man, I was pretty proud of it, and then I mean, a lot of it's still in there, but it's just weird. It's like it feels, because I know the scene. I'm like, why is it like the dialogue gets cut, and
Mhm.
yeah, but they were very nice, and yeah, did that, which I thought was fantastic.
That is amazing that you just keep your artwork like that. Even it would be better than if you had it yourself. You'd probably throw it in the garage.
I wouldn't know where
It
it
would have
is. I'm
water
like,
stains all over it. Now they hand your artwork with white gloves and everything, and you wouldn't even take care of it like they do. I
no
love
way.
that.
Yeah.
When you guys go to the archives, does it feel weird seeing the scenes you animated that were on a movie that so many people watched? Does it feel weird? Does it feel surreal? Does it just feel like, it's just part of the job? What does it feel like to you guys?
Well, for me, I didn't actually see it. Like they did that. Like
Hmm.
they didn't bring my drawings, so I didn't actually get to see my
Oh, okay.
drawings in
Gotcha.
person. But like I think Steve, you were saying like, did I ever go? I did go where sometimes they'd just bring classic stuff out, and
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
you just be like, oh my, you know, just incredible stuff from like, I don't know, Dumbo, and
What
just
scene blew you away when you would go? Was there anyone in particular you can remember?
mostly we would just look at the drawing, like,
Hmm.
you know, I don't think they'd ever flip a thing, but yeah, I saw some Robin Hood stuff, but you know, it's just I love it. I love that. To
Yeah.
me, it's just such a fun style
Hmm.
and movie. Um, so there was some of that. What about you, Steve?
Oh, I went and saw anything by Milk Hall for sure, but Rescuers, where she's taking off her makeup and everything while she's talking to the
Yeah.
little girl, or the Aristocats, anything with the butler, you know, where he's
Yes.
listening and all that. I just, oh man, those things. That's where I went in and I checked those scenes out and Xerox them. I think they used to let you Xerox them back then, but yeah, but you couldn't take them out. I felt like you were an actual museum, you know, like in the Smithsonian or something. And I'm glad they did that because I heard that a lot of those scenes were taken too, and maybe that's one reason they started to keep such a, you know, locking
Well, those
cams
were the
on that
ones I
stuff.
was talking about. Like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'd
Uh,
steal them. Well, cut that
Allegedly.
out. Yeah.
We'll take that part out. But no, so if there's one scene in particular, you know, The Jungle Book's always been my favorite movie from Disney. But when we had our middle child, Cooper, it was on fuck, probably like the first 9 months. So when he was 6 months old, you know, he started to like really sit up and really like just be observant of what was going on. And then that's when we would have like all the Disney movies on. We would just go through, and there was something about 101 Dalmatians that just held his attention the entire time. And I'm just going to go out and say he just understands and appreciates fine art because that's exactly what 101 Dalmatians is. But I think it was just the constant movement. It was dogs, it was puppies, because at that time we had 4 dogs. You know, so he was just around dogs all the time. But there's a scene in particular from 101 Dalmatians that I think is like, that's the bar that I set almost every scene to. Like, is it as good as this? It'll never be as good as this because this was perfection for me, right? But it's that scene where they chase all the puppies into the mansion or into the room. They're getting ready to they're getting ready to clobber him, right? And then you've got Sergeant Tibbs. He's holding the puppies back, right? And then right as Jasper's about to hit him, the whole background goes red. So I associated that with just nothing but anger in that scene. It was right before Pongo and Perdita would jump through the thing, and it was just like you freeze frame it, right? And I do it every time it comes up to it. I just pause it and I stare at it, and you can still kind of see the etching where they kind of went a little too hard or they didn't scan it too well. You can see the little imperfections, which makes it perfect. You know, it's just I would love to see that scene in person just one time before I leave this earth. I think it would be just a bucket list type of item. So Walt Disney World, if you're listening, I want to come over there to the archives and show me the magic, please. You know, so but nonetheless, man.
hey man, I'm
With
just gonna say I love your passion for like you really like I it's inspiring, I think. Like you're really into it and you can tell it comes across. Like I think that's very cool.
Oh, well, thank you, man. You guys, I get to tell you guys this all the time. I usually wait till the end to get all sappy on you guys, but you guys really gave us a childhood worth living, man. You guys, there's so many memories. You know, when I think of growing up, I think of animation, I think of cartoons, I think of movies. I think of like my younger brother and my younger sister. We had like, we were so lucky. Even having a single mom that worked 2 jobs, you know, she tried to give us everything, right? We had every single VHS that Walt Disney World released, and we would stack them up and make forts. We would stack them up and make ramps with them with our little Matchbox cars. You know, we watched every fucking movie. Like my older sister has all of our old VHSs. She's still got the VCR that we grew up on. You know, we haven't broken it out in a little while, but you know, just going there and just like, there's something about physical media when you touch your fingers, you can smell the memories, right? You break open that VHS case, you're like, oh shit. And you guys, you know, you were talking about Aristocrats. That was my little sister Morgan. That was her favorite movie, you know, growing up. That one was on constant repeat. And there was another one, and I'm so glad I got to like come around and tell John Pomeroy this because I had John Pomeroy on a few years ago, and I'm such a huge fan of his.
Oh my
You
gosh,
know,
who is? It's awesome.
I mean, if you're not, you're wrong. I mean, there's nothing that guy is fucking amazing. I loved everything. Like All Dogs Go to Heaven, Charlie. Like my wife had gotten me for our anniversary a couple years back. He was doing commissions and stuff like that. So he did this beautiful Charlie for me. And every time I see it, I go and touch it. I'm like, oh, the master, he touched this. He drew this. It's so fucking cool, man. But you know, I got to tell him this story. So Blockbuster was still a thing when we were younger. And every week it was one of us could pick a movie. We'd go there. My mom would get a movie. My older sister would get a movie, and then the little kids we would have to switch out. So it'd be me, Nathan, or Morgan. You know, we'd switch out every other week. And my younger brother and younger sister would always take The Land Before Time, right? And for the longest time, I thought that was a Disney movie. I didn't realize that was a Don Bluth Studios movie, right? It's because it just looked like Disney. It was with the other VHSs, I just assumed. And I remember I would get something different every week. These two would pick the same movie every other week. So twice a month, we were watching from Blockbuster. We were running Land Before Time before my mom bought it, which went downhill after that. But I remember looking at John. I was like, John, I got to tell you something. I was like, I'm glad the dinosaurs died. I'm glad the comet hit the dinosaurs because I had to watch A Land Before Time so much when I was young. I hated dinosaurs for the longest time. I was like, however, you guys won me over because my youngest son, he started watching this. And I had forgotten because of my jade and hatred to this when I was a younger kid, because I just wanted to see something different, right? That how beautiful this movie was. And I was like, so you guys lost me when I was a kid, when I probably should have been a fan of this movie, but you guys won me back as an adult watching my little kid watch something that I fucking hated growing up. So there's something, like I said, there's something about the power of animation that you guys have that can evoke emotion, whether it's absolute love, it's absolute anger, you know, whatever it is. You guys are taking something that's fictitious that starts up here, that travels down this hand and makes it to paper or makes it to the Simtech or makes it to the tablet now. You know, it just goes to show like you guys are so fucking good at what you do. You know, you guys get this out of us. You get to fall in love or hate a character, you know, depending on whatever that character is. And that's a testament to you guys and you guys' hard work. So that's why I love it. I love it because I get to sit there and veg out on my couch, watch stuff with my kids and get transported back to a time where I didn't have to worry about back pain, depression, bills. I didn't have to worry about any of that shit. I could just see what Pongo's doing. He's biting the hell out of Jasper right now. That's what he's doing. That's what I like to see right there, you know? So at the end of the day, man, thank you guys for what you guys do.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think I should do. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Makes me feel
absolutely.
good.
Oh, I'm glad, man, because you guys have made so many of us feel good for so long, man. You know, before we rotate into the Adventures of Slim and Steve, which, like I said, I love the artwork, love the Bible you guys sent over. I can't wait till this releases on YouTube. I would love to know. We'll start with you, Jim. What was because you had talked about them Xeroxing you know, one of your scenes from Emperor. When you think of Emperor's New Groove, I've seen the Sweatbox, the documentary that was put on. That seemed brutal, right? So I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you about that in particular. I talked to Sandro about it just a little bit, not too much because I'm pretty sure you know Sandro because you got to work with him and stuff.
Mhm.
He is one of the most enthusiastic and just happy guys. Like I could not bring up something that would possibly to be depressing, and I was just smiling from ear to ear. Like his energy exudes off the screen, so I was smiling the entire time. So I didn't want to bring up anything depressing. But I really regret not asking this question. But how much of that documentary of the Sweatbox was that like 100% like not
Oh yeah.
fictitious whatsoever?
I
It
mean,
was miserable the
it's
entire time.
pretty accurate, I think.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny, see, because it's like, do you know Joe Mosier? Like,
Hmm.
like he's in there. It's just like looking back in time. You know, you'll see these clips from that, and yeah, Joe's like outside a room, kind of conspiratorially. It's like I don't know what's going. But yeah, I mean, I was on it when it was Kingdom in the Sun,
Hmm.
um, and I was on the. There was a little stone guy that Nick Ranieri was the soup for.
Hmm.
Um, and I can't remember its name, but it was Harvey Firestein was doing the voice of that.
Yeah.
So we had started, you know, we were in animation when that all kind of happened, and then yeah, everyone was like, "Whoa, this is crazy!" And then the actual movie or the Emperor's New Groove got made in like a record amount of time because I think once they made that switch, it was like we still got to get this done, maybe in the same release date.
Hmm.
Um, so it was like a really compacted time. But I think what happened was it, you know, it had a lot of energy because of that. You know, there's everybody probably in the story department, everything. Everybody was like, "We're gonna get this done," and the movie has just a lot of energy to it. But there's beautiful artwork on the first version of it. Really beautiful artwork. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely sad for
Yeah.
for Roger and other people on it. But yeah, I wasn't privy to exactly, the stuff that I saw in the sweatbox was stuff we weren't in these rooms,
Mhm.
necessarily, unless you were really in the thick of, high up and in the thick of it. So you'd hear kind of rumors and stuff, but we really didn't quite know what was going on with it.
Now, there's always something that so when I saw this movie way back in the day, I didn't know anything about the Sweatbox. I didn't know it was, I don't want to say Pocahontas adjacent, but everything that I had heard since then and with the Sweatbox, like it was kind of playing off of that style, that theme essentially, right? And then you see the Sweatbox, and then I see the movie that we ended up getting with The Emperor's New Groove. And I can't remember where I heard it. It wasn't anything that came from Disney. It might have been just like another podcast talking about Emperor's New Groove. So I'm a kid when that movie comes out, and it fucking blows my mind. Like, oh my God, this is one of the funniest. Even today, like I can put that on and still laugh. I mean, David Spade, John Goodman. It's just there's not one dull moment. Like the editing on The Emperor's New Groove is fucking fantastic because the fact that they can end on these jokes, it seems so different. It was like the next wave of animation, kind of what started with, Rescuers and Little Mermaid. I'm not saying they hit a lull, but they had like this reawakening or this reemergence of animation with this one and Lilo and Stitch, and Treasure Planet. Even though Atlantis didn't really, I don't. Atlantis has got its niche like audience and stuff like that. I just don't think it's talked about as much as it should be. It's a beautiful movie. Never gets mentioned in any top five list, but like when you're thinking of like animation in the 2000s, late 90s, 2000s, that one for sure should be up there, top three, top four for sure. And it never really is. But getting back to the original point was the Emperor's New Groove. And we can cut this part out because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So I want to get your opinion on it. But I had heard that it was like Disney kind of tried to bury the Emperor's New Groove, so there was no real advertisement for it. They're kind of upset because of, the not so much the Sweatbox, but the movie that led into what they got. So they weren't really happy with this. Like I said, we can cut this entire part out if you want. But did you guys get that same sentiment, like working on it, like they kind of tried to bury it or get it out as quickly as possible with no advertisement, no real push for it?
I didn't. I mean, I think there were always complaints about how much advertising and stuff, but
Yeah,
I didn't get that. I definitely got it with the Sweatbox. That
yeah,
the Sweatbox they showed us, and then
hmm
it disappeared. Like
yeah.
it was just gone, and then and then it resurfaced. But I think we saw it at the studio and or something, and that thing I think was buried because it really did kind of show a little more than they wanted to show of
Raise some
making the
skeletons for sure.
sausage, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not all like happy.
hmm
Um, so yeah, but with New Groove, I don't remember that, but it's well could be. Did you talk to other people that said that?
No, not so much other people that said that. Like I said, I can't remember if I was listening to a podcast or I was just listening to one of those YouTube videos where it was like, there was no real advertisement on it. It just seemed like, you know, they started pumping it up after they realized the hit they had. I mean, I think it took them like a year to really find an audience. Like they released it at I can't remember when they released it, maybe late in the year, but typically a spot where you don't really release a Disney movie essentially. So there was like all of these, I don't want to say conspiracy theories in a weird way, but it's just all these little odd coinky dinkies that started adding up. It's like, oh, if they really wanted to release it, this would have been a summer movie, more kids, more people at home, more money, yada yada yada. So I was just always, like I said, I wanted to ask Sandra that so many years ago, but he had me smiling the entire time that I feel like I don't ever write anything down, so I didn't even look at it. But as soon as we hit, I'm like, shit, I should have asked him about that to see if that was, if that was like an opinion that anybody had, while you were working on it. Did it feel like they didn't really want that out there? before we move on to Steve and his favorite moment, but the only reason I'm not saying the negative part was your favorite moment, I'm saying the Emperor's New Groove, since you had that, since they got those scenes done up for you, it has to have a special place in your heart. Now, is there one scene in particular, let's say not your scene, so let's pick one of your scenes, but is there a scene in particular that maybe one of your other friends might have worked on Emperor's New Groove that you think is just like, oh my God, that is perfect, that's masterpiece, that's comically, it's the greatest thing ever?
Uh, I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
in there, a lot of great stuff. Particular scene.
Or a moment or a line of dialogue that, like, whenever you think of Emperor's New Groove, that's the first thing you flash to.
I mean, I had a lot of like, you kind of flash to what you worked on just because, you know,
Spend so much
you're in
time with
it
it.
so
Yeah.
much, and sometimes it's just like it's a lot of work, and so you kind of flash back to that kind of stuff. Um, so I so I have kind of like nightmares thinking of the bats and the scorpions, which I did that sequence.
Oh,
Um, so when they, uh, that was a lot of pencil mileage, as we
yeah.
say, of a lot of things. I will say though, I don't think it got in there, but I know you like this kind of thing. It's like, do we put stuff into
Yeah.
the scenes? So in that scene, like when his like all the bats fly in his mouth, in Cusco's mouth, and his
Mhm.
cheeks are. I drew like tons of things in there. There might be some that are still there, but I had like Mickey Mouse head.
Oh,
I had
wow.
like kind of like a Batman thing.
Uh-huh.
Like things were like because it was one frame, and you wouldn't. So I don't know if cleanup actually kept any of that. They may not have. I
I'm gonna
haven't
go watch it after this.
stepped through it, but just another one on that is on Hunchback.
Mhm.
And I just went to the Hollywood Bowl like a month ago, and they did a Disney. It was like a '80s, '90s Disney thing, and they showed these scenes from Hunchback. It's this very, it's Esmeralda singing, I think, about the outcasts. So it's a
Mhm.
very kind of somber, beautiful song. And I was working as a rough in betweener, but with Ron Husband. Do you know Ron?
Mhm. Oh yeah, I had him on. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, and Ron, just a great guy, and he gave me some things to do. Like he was doing Jolly, the
Mhm.
goat, and he'd be like, oh, do the ring, the overlap on the ring. Um, and then eventually I got some background crowd people,
Mhm.
and but in that scene I did the shadows that were on the walls,
Mhm.
and I did caricatures. So one of them was this guy John Weber. I don't know if you know John.
No, I
Uh,
don't.
he he's I think he's now at SCAD. He's like
Mhm.
kind of high up at SCAD. But I used to draw him all the time, so I put him in as a background character in one of the
Mhm.
scenes with, where Quasi's doing something. But then this scene, because it's such a heartfelt moment, but all I can see is this my goofy caricature of his silhouette, just singing like going over like in the back over the wall. Um, did you ever do that, Steve? Did you ever put anything?
No, I didn't. I never put an Easter egg in there. I no.
Well,
Sounds like
boo.
fun. I wish I did.
Well, shit, you're gonna have to make up for lost times with the Adventures of Slim and Steve. Before we
Uh,
get to the Adventures of Slim and Steve and some of the stuff you're gonna put in the background, Steve, we got to talk about your favorite moment. Is any one production, any one of the productions you did while you're at Disney stick out more than any of the others?
um, they all kind of have their little moments and everything,
Hmm.
and I like them for certain reasons, and some don't like them for other reasons, and all that. I'm not so sure any one moment. I really liked working on Tarzan and
Hmm.
young Tarzan, baby Tarzan. I liked I animated the sequence when young Tarzan jumps off the cliff and smacks on the water and goes over to the elephants and he grabs a little hair. I really like the scene where he finally grabs the elephant's hair on the tail, and
Hmm.
the elephant starts jumping all around in the water, and young Tarzan swinging on the tail out of there. I thought that was a lot of fun. I really like working with John Pomeroy on Milo character. He was
Yeah.
super nice, and it was just kind of awesome to work with somebody that, he did all the awesome stuff on Secret and Nim. I was just
Hmm.
walking in there with my eyes just huge, going, "Oh man, this is awesome!" And he was such a nice person to work with too. And Milo was a really fun character, and he was generous with some of the scenes that he gave me on that film. And no, just kind of the as a whole, you know what I mean? It just kind of it was pretty good. It was pretty tough too, because almost like writing, animating is reanimating, it seems.
Yeah.
When you go into your supervisor, they might have a different take, or they do some drawovers, and once you get through your supervisor, you go to the director, and they have a different take than what the supervisor has, and all that. So it is definitely a lot of compromise, and just a lot of revising, and they just want to get everything perfect, and it's kind of sometimes can be a little bit of not a little bit, a lot of work to get a shot through, and to get it on the screen. And sometimes, when you get it on the screen, it's a compilation of a lot of people's opinions and effort by the time it gets on there. So ownership kind of gets hacked away from your first shot at a scene. You do your first pass, and that's your pass. Then you have to do the second pass, and then a lot of more fingers kind of get in the pie, and then it gets on the screen, and hopefully, you kind of have a lot of input in your shot, and I don't even know where I'm going with it anymore. I just lost my train of thought.
Oh,
Kind
so
of went
that
back.
Brain
that's
is
so
off the rails.
Yeah, I totally went off the rails. But I would, to get back to it, I'd say Tarzan was a really fun, because I got to work with one of my teachers, Chris Buck, and he was fun to work with. Also, my classmate John Ripa was a supervising animator on Young Tarzan. It was awesome to work with him. He was great to
Mhm.
work with. And to work with John Pomeroy was just a once in a lifetime opportunity. Those really stick out to me.
Oh, that's really cool, man. And then before we rotate, out of Disney, I'd be remiss not to ask, man. So Phil Collins had probably one of the greatest, like that dude fucking killed it on that soundtrack. I mean, you could probably put anybody else in there. I don't think you get the masterpiece, the piece of resistance, the chef's kiss, if you will, that Phil Collins put on there for a soundtrack. When they're playing music, do you guys get to see, like animators, do you guys get to like go and see them do anything with the orchestras, or is it you guys see it when you hear it or when you watch the movie? Is that the first time you get to see the soundtrack or anything like that?
Pretty
For
much,
me,
unless
on
it's
Go ahead, Jim.
sorry, I was just going to say, unless it's a song that they have that you're specifically animating to,
Mhm.
a lot of times they're still working on the score uh,
Gotcha.
throughout. So yeah, I mean, at least my thing is like, if it was a specific song that it's like, oh, somebody's singing, they're going to sing to it, then you'd see it.
Hmm.
And you get hints of it, but never to me the full effect until you kind of saw the finished movie or close to the finished movie. Sorry, go ahead, Steve. I interrupted
On
you.
Tarzan, I worked on a montage sequence from his transition from young Tarzan to adult Tarzan, and
Hmm.
that's when I listened to a lot of Phil Collins music, and you kind of animate to the beats of the music. I did the scene where the hippopotamuses are raising out of the water, and you kind of truck in and all that, and that was all to Phil Collins music, and it was a lot of fun to listen, because I love Phil Collins stuff, from the 80s and 90s and all that kind of. And yeah, that was pretty much like Jim said, the only time you get to see it is when you're animating to the beats and all that, and that was one of them.
Damn, what a missed opportunity. If that could have been a possibility, that'd be like a once in a lifetime type of thing. You could see the master Phil Collins just sitting there banging out an amazing score for that album or for that movie. Shit, man. What a time to be alive. What a time to be a fly on the wall for that one in particular. I mean, like I said, true master at his craft. Well, thank you for sharing all the Disney stories, folks. Or gentlemen, I really enjoyed it. I know the folks will too. So the main reason we're here, man, for this new project you're working on. You went and talked about, Steve, a bunch of fingers working on things, and you kind of lose the identity of what you worked on because so many people are trying to plus it. They go back and they make the roughs look perfect and adjust line work and stuff like that. Now it's just you two guys, right? For the adventures of Slim and Steve
Almost.
here, man. Almost. Okay, so we've got a couple more people, a couple more fingers in the in the drawings here. Now, how does this one come to be? You guys obviously are friends. You guys come together and say, "Hey, got this cool idea," or how does this one all flesh out?
Well, the origin of Slim and Steve, if you can't tell, it's basically my name. And we are looking up at Steve here, so he does look kind of intimidating, but he's much bigger than me. Like I'm a small guy. So we have kind of a, funny size dynamic. But we did a trip to Europe we've done a few trips, like just as friends going. And we did one to Europe in 2000, I think, because we went to Oktoberfest and we had some like ridiculous, times. And I took a sketchbook and I was just drawing, so I'd exaggerate, I'd make Steve bigger and me smaller. So that was kind of like the very first thing. But then we're not getting away from Disney completely because Steve and Chris Sobe were roommates. And you want to take it from there, Steve?
Yeah, Chris and I were roommates, and Jim come in and he would show these drawings of me. Most of they were sketches of me doing ridiculous stuff on our trip, like an Oktoberfest, getting all smashed and sloppy, or me saying I'm gonna quit smoking, and this is Steve quitting smoking, and he has this like this space helmet on me with a cigarette in my mouth, and it's just covered in smoke with just my eyes. So mostly it's just his observations of me. And then he'd show it to Chris Sove, and then Chris Sove would do drawings of me and do drawings of Jim, but mostly it seemed like there were drawings of me. And
and Chris is amazing. Like,
oh,
he's so fast. He would just do them as we're talking. You'd just be like, and be pinning them up on the wall, like.
And then we had VCRs, and we even had cable at Disney, and we had watched these shows and stuff. But I found this show called the Tough Man Competitions. I think they were like early 2000s, 90s, and I would bring them in, and then Jim would come in, and Chris would come in, or Chris was already there, and we would like watch these things for like a half hour, and it was just hilarious. Because these fighters were just such characters and stuff. And then Chris starts doing these drawings of both Jim and I in these tough man competitions. That's where that shot, that nut shot comes from.
Yeah.
Because Chris started storyboarding. Chris and Jim started storyboarding this fight between Jim and I, and it just kind of filled our entire walls. It was kind of funny. They would come in, they'll say, "Hey, where's that shot coming from?" And there'd be drawings of Slim and Steve all over the walls and everything. Not a single drawing of what we were actually working on. I even went to show a scene one time. John Sanford, remember on
Sweating Bullet,
Home on the Range,
or Home on the Range. See, I call it Sweating Bullets.
Yeah, and John Sanford turned to me and he goes, "Hey, I hear you got a whole scene up on your walls of these, you and Jim." So it got around that we were working on everything but what we were supposed to be working on that time. But it was hilarious.
Maybe that's the true ending of why 2D went. It was us.
Yeah.
Like, we're
you guys killed it
time doing this goofy stuff.
By
but
the end of
I mean, that was literally some of the most fun I've ever had. Like, we would just laugh hysterically the whole time, and the three of us, it was just such a good time.
I think there's like 20 drawings of me in a Speedo, being a stripper, walking up there. Oh man, it was gosh, and it was all kinds of stuff too. It wasn't just because Jim and I went to Rome and Switzerland and Oktoberfest, and we had different kind of adventures in each spot. So Jim would draw different, it would be kind of these little tiny contained stories. So that's kind of how it came about, where it wasn't necessarily any set place. It was just take these two characters and shake them up and throw them in Oktoberfest, or take these two characters and shake them up and put them in war, or put them in whatever. It was the characters that kind of made it
Hmm.
Yeah,
ridiculous and
the,
fun.
the
And
characters are consistent, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's a little like, I think our idea, it's a little Abbott and Costello, you know, where those guys they'd meet Frankenstein, then they'd be in a World War II movie. Like, it didn't matter. They were always
Hmm.
just them. And also, you know, Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck, where they throw them into a Robin Hood Daffy. And you didn't care. You were like, this is awesome. It's like, it didn't need to make sense that they were, you know, in some other time, because it's like their character and personalities are so strong that it's like you just love seeing them in any scenario. And that's kind of what we loved about this. It's like, we love every genre, you know,
Hmm.
you could do, like horror. I mean, it's all got a comic bent, but it's like, put them in a horror comedy, or put them in a
Yeah,
war movie.
that's what I love too. And Daffy Duck is like one of my favorite characters too. And
Hmm.
and having him play against Porky Pig, you know, kind of this kind of morality. It just kind of amplified Daffy's kind of craziness and all that other stuff. So I just loved it. But I didn't do as many drawings as Jim and Chris did. I kind of came to it a little bit later. Jim made a comic book first, and Jim kind of kept it going. He really liked it, and then after I saw Jim, he did like a small comic book. That's when and also I finally got a tablet where I can draw on the tablet and color it on the tablet, and
Hmm.
it made it so much easier to make a full-fledged story out of it. And that's when I started doing my comic books, which I made 3 of. I don't know if I told you I made some comic books out of this. And that's when Jim looked at it and saw that we had quite a bit of a body of work. And Jim goes, "Hey, why don't we get this together and see if we can't pitch it somewhere?" So that's when we kind of really started analyzing what we had and what we were doing, and where the entertainment is, and how we could explain it to people.
Now, just going over what you guys send me. I mean, I mean, I'm glad you brought up Abbott and Costello, because I didn't go there just because, I didn't grow up with Abbott and Costello, but my grandpa, he really watched it. Like, my love for film, my love for TV and all that other stuff kind of started with him. We would go up there for the summertime. We would watch Walker, Texas Ranger. We would watch the A-Team. We would watch In the Heat of the Night. We would watch all these shows, but when movies would come on Turner Classic Movies, he would point to them and go, she starred in this movie, and then that movie would come on, and he directed this movie, and that movie would come on. So he was just pointing out the credits essentially before I knew what credits were, right? So it kind of made me to look at the credits. But when I was looking at the Bible, the first thing that came to mind, because it was something that I remember going up there, everybody else was asleep, I couldn't sleep, and I just turned it on, and it was when they were doing Rocky and Bullwinkle and the Peabody and Sherman, the Fractured Fairy Tales. That's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of that duo out of time, right? The Peabody and the Shermans. And when I was looking over the Bible, it's like you could put these characters literally anywhere. I was like, man, I would love to see him go back in time, like when Peabody and Sherman went back and did Julius Caesar, found out more about him. So it would be cool to see the more comedic stuff that you guys are doing, or trying to do with the couple scenarios that you put in the Bible, and the pitch. The pitch book was just seeing all these different things. Like I said, I loved seeing Slim punch Steve in the nuts in the boxing match. That was like my favorite picture you guys sent over for the artwork, man. So we'll start with you, Jim. Is there, if when you guys start doing this, and you guys will be rolling out onto YouTube, and I know we talked about the date, was it September 14th is when you guys will start putting stuff up on the YouTube channel?
We're shooting for
We're
around September 14th, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a little flux right now, so around then, yeah.
So,
Check
ladies and
this
gentlemen,
space.
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Check
Make
out
sure we
the
follow that link
Synergy
below.
Animation channel on YouTube.
Absolutely, and that link will be in the bottom below. So by the time this comes out, by the time you guys are seeing this, ladies and gentlemen, it probably be up. So make sure you guys follow down below. Click the link. Go give it a shot. Like, subscribe to that channel because more stuff will come with as many people as we can push towards it. We're going to push towards it. Is Jim. So let's start with you. Is there any one particular story that you want to tell, that you want to get out there? Obviously, everybody's got something they want to say whenever they create a character, they create a show. Is there one predicament that you want to put old Steve down here into, that you want to see kind of how Slim and Steve get out of it? Is there one in mind that you got?
I mean, we have a bunch. I think when we were kind of it, let me tell you like what we were doing for this thing. It's like kind of we partnered with Michael Benet
Mhm.
and Synergy, and they right Steve.
Yeah, Mike Benet. He's
Yeah.
a classmate of mine
Yeah.
at Cal Arts.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he called me up and he says, "Hey, we're gonna make a couple of teasers and everything. We're gonna pick 3 projects. And do you know of anybody, or do you have a project that we would like to partner with us?" And I was going, "Nope, I don't have anything." And because we haven't done anything, it's been like 6 years or so since we did anything with Slim and Steve. And then I think Michael called me up again and goes, "You sure you don't know of anybody or something like that?" And I was going, "What am I talking about? I Jim and I have these 4 comic books, and we tried
Like
to
20
shop it
years of
around like 6 years earlier or something." I go, "Yeah, I think I have something." And it turned out that it was a lot different than what he is doing, because the 3 projects, he has one for little children,
Mhm.
one for like a little bit older,
Young
I don't know,
adults.
like
Tween.
11 and up,
Yeah.
or something, not necessarily toddlers or anything. And then you got Slim and Steve, which is just totally debaucherous and Adult Swim and all that kind of
People
stuff.
like me are going to tune
Yeah,
into it.
yeah, more like a kind of Rick and Morty, or
Mhm.
just kind of that shock value and funny, and just whatever goes, whatever for a laugh, as far as I'm concerned. And it just fit kind of in with just the demographic that they weren't hitting. So he goes, "Okay, so you guys have about 4 months to put this project together." And then Jim is the one that kind of organized it a little bit, what we should put where and stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that we figured out was, I think Michael, we could have just done like a little part of a short, or I forget how he posed it, but basically we decided to do a title sequence. So you would see, like Rick and Morty, where you see
Yeah.
scenes from episodes. So we were like, this will be a great way to kind of get the idea across. And then, so we did that. And then there's like a 1 minute, kind of a scene that would be in a short. So an example of what would be in a short. And the 2 of us, we bit off like a lot more than we could chew. I don't know that it was 4 months. I feel like it was shorter. But yeah, we delivered them, kind of a lot of stuff, X sheets and the edit, like we did the sound, the music, a lot of stuff. And obviously they're doing a ton of finishing, like they're doing amazing work. But for us, it's like Steve's working full time on The Simpsons. It's like I kind of was off, but then I went back to work. We were having those dark night of the soul, kind of things where we're like, can we even do this? Like,
Yeah.
there's no way. There's no way. Like I would put up post-its, or I'd be like, I got to do this by, here's what I have to do this morning. Here's what I have to do this afternoon. Because otherwise I just don't do any, I'm like, I'll let it kind of go. But I'm like, all right, I got to hit these things, and I never hit them. Like never would I would I get to what I wanted to get accomplished for the day. And yeah, we got together at one point and just kind of like had our own therapy session, I think. But it was all pressure we were kind of putting on ourselves, But and we both had kind of separately, because we were kind of doing different parts of it. But we both had the exact same kind of feeling you know,
It was a lot.
like, are we going to be able to finish?
Like
and we
the
did.
opening credits, you threw everything but the kitchen sink. Slim and Steve, you can skip from genre to genre and time to time. Jim wanted to put every genre and every time into the opener, and even when you're on when you're not doing the work, it's all like, oh man, and we can do this, and oh man, we can do this, we can put all these characters then and that characters then, and then when you're doing it, you're just going, what the hell were we thinking? This is
Who came
absolutely
up with this
insane.
idea? They're insane.
Mm.
What was I gonna say about that? Like, now I'm off. My train's off. I lost it.
How long are episodes are going to be if you guys start pumping episodes out for it?
We haven't totally talked about it, which
No?
I guess we should. I mean, I kind of look at it as a Rick and Morty.
Mhm.
So that length, I don't.
Yeah, like 22 minutes, something like that, like a half-hour episode.
Mhm.
Right now, it's just kind of putting feelers out there to see what kind of vibe you get, see what kind of response you get. Hopefully, you get a strong enough response that other people will respond to it and say, hey, we'll take a chance on this. So that's what we're kind of hoping for right now. But we're taking one chunk at a time, trying to make this one as entertaining as possible, and kind of taking it in little baby steps. After doing just these 1 minute little vignettes that we did, like the opener is about 45 seconds, and the little teaser is about 1 minute and 12 seconds. I can't even imagine doing 22 minutes right now. So we're going to need a lot of help, and there's a lot of talented people out there. So I'm sure that it's not going to be as daunting as we're thinking, just because you just got to go out there and get like-minded people and people that are talented and take a lot of the burden off. So I'm looking forward to that part.
So obviously, excuse me. Obviously, 4 months ago, you guys kind of started this, and you're kind of getting towards the light at the end of that tunnel. What are some of the things that you learned along the way of doing this, putting you guys yourself in this corner and trying to kind of get yourself out and deliver something in 4 months?
I think one thing for me, uh, that I ended up doing the backgrounds for it, the background
Mhm.
paintings, and it was something I had never done before. I mean, I've done artwork and stuff, but
Mhm.
never like that. And so I actually went on and got some tutorials. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I gotta learn. I gotta go to school again in a way. Um, I never know how to say her name, but there's Lois or Loish. Do you know that
Mhm.
artist?
No.
Loish. She's phenomenal artist. And she has like great, she has like a Patreon. So I actually joined that to see how she does her paintings, and
Mhm.
they were really informative. And I was loving it because it's like that was new to me. Uh, but it was within that crazy schedule.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a, but even with that, I was like so happy to have done that, because I feel like I came out with a skill that I sort of had, but not really. And after doing all the paint, like Steve said, there's a lot of little 2 second things that were popping. So it ended up doing a lot of paintings for it. That for me was great, and just knowing that we can do something like that in a pretty short amount of time. As Yeah, I was impressed with what Steve did, and that we buckled down, and we at our old age we're still able to do that, because I will tell you, there's like, when you're a kid, when you're in your 20s, you're able to really do all-nighters and all this stuff, and it's like the older you get, the more you're like, I want to relax and watch some TV. Like,
Oh yeah, you have boundless energy. Gosh, yeah.
What about
Yeah,
you,
but it was
Steve? What are some of the things you've brought away from it?
it was just nice to kind of see every step along the way, because
Mhm.
Michael asked of us was to what he called a movie in a box.
Hmm.
So it just all the instructions. It's almost like taking a model airplane, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And almost making it, but you kind of put all the pieces in a box and you hand it to somebody else that has all the glue and some instructions and has all the paint, and you just want to make sure that they have all the parts. You know, they know where the colors are going, and all these things. There's it's almost like the artistic brain, and then you have kind of the intellectual brain or the engineer brain. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You got to have all the numbers correct and the recipe just right, hopefully that they can interpret all of you know, the artistic and the fun choices that you just want them to translate, because it's kind of crazy. It's almost like uh, uh, it is handing somebody a box almost in the dark, and they are like an archaeologist. They take it and they open it up and they see what you gave them, and then they kind of go and interpret it for themselves. So to make sure that you can make your project as bulletproof as you can, and read as well as you can, and all that stuff. So it was just kind of fun to go through the steps and make sure that they get everything that they need.
So if you go back 4 months ago and tell yourself any one thing, Steve, we'll start with you. What would you tell yourself?
Um, Definitely simple, make it simple, make it read, uh, um, uh, make sure, gosh, it's simple, make it read, um, and try to give them as much information as you possibly can to get your vision through.
Hmm.
You know, if it's important to you and everything, because there's so much that can go through kind of interpretations by somebody else. So you want to just make sure that and especially in comedy, because I think it's the timing is so important, the expressions are so important. um uh uh yeah, just to get those two things to read as good as possible, you know, just fun drawings, making all the designs nice and readable and easy to translate into shapes. Um, uh, I'm again, I dug myself into a hole. I don't know where I'm going. I think that's where all my conversations they're gonna head.
Nah, that's okay, man. You know how you eat an elephant?
Piece at a time.
One piece at a time, man. That's all you got to do. One piece at a time. What about you, Jim? What would you go back and tell yourself 4 months ago?
I think I know exactly. I would be like, hey,
Run.
hey, hey, asshole, start right now, right now. Like, because I think we came up with the stories and kind of ideas, and
Mhm.
that beginning part, I think, if we realized how much we had to do, we would have that first like week or 2 weeks, we probably would have figured that out like a day or two, and then just been flying.
Mhm.
Because yeah, it ended up being we were we're just working all the time, and I think if we had hit the ground running a little faster, and that's a lot of me. I'm like a procrastinator. So that would be it. I'd kick myself in the butt and go like, all right, there's a big thing, a big wave coming at you. You better start
Mhm.
moving, start paddling.
What got me too is there are so many designs. As simple of an idea as it is, you have to draw every costume, you have to draw every weapon or
Effects.
tool effects. I mean, as simple as it is, there's a ton of stuff that goes into it, and a ton of stuff that you have to plan for and to explain to people and all that. It's crazy how it gives me even way more respect for all these other you know, TV shows that get made. It is definitely takes a village or an army
Mhm.
to make these shows. It's crazy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was a thing where we did get exposed to every aspect of it. where it's things we hadn't done before, like background painting or doing X sheets. Now, Steve did his X sheets. I hired Chris Sove because I just couldn't do it. I hadn't done it like before, really filling out like TV X sheets. We used to get them at Disney, and they'd be the dialogue. Really was all that we saw, but we weren't really filling them out. But this is like, if you see these X sheets, they're like works of art. It's incredible. Like Chris has done it like kind of.
It was a piece of artwork.
A lot.
I want to hang it on the wall.
It's art. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what it came to. Because even with that, I went over with my backgrounds of how long, I think it was like a week past when our original deadline. But Steve, he dove into those X sheets himself for part of it.
I had to do them 3 times, and mine was the simple one. I thought I knew how to do it, and then I did it, and I went, and then I saw Chris Olves, and I go, huh, why aren't these matching up? And Chris already explained it to me 3 times how to do it, and it took me 3 times to get it correct. I was just going nuts. By the end of it, I was just going absolutely nuts. But now I know how to do X sheets. So at least that's good.
Yeah, it's a training exercise, man. You guys got to do something, stretch a different muscle,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's always a positive. Oh, 100%.
Pulled a couple months.
So as we start to wind down, man, when you think about where you started with Disney. Now you guys are venturing out and trying to do something that's a little bit more personal to you, right? You guys are friends for a very long time, and now your friends get to come up with something and make something together. What do you think about when you guys think about this show in particular? Is there a story when you think about the Adventures of Slim and Steve? Is it just you guys reminiscing about all the times you would go and travel? Chris would make these funny drawings of you guys being behind in your scenes in Disney and essentially killing 2D animation, boys. You guys killed it because of all of these scenes pinned up, man. But wouldn't
These
that, but
guys.
for real, these two right here, ladies and gentlemen, these two are the responsible. What comes to mind though when you think about these last 4 months, the culmination of what you guys have worked so hard for?
I think we're still friends. Like
that's a positive.
Yeah,
I mean that is
stressful situations.
Yeah. Honestly, to me, because we've talked about it, it's like if this goes forward, bringing some of our other friends in to help, write and do different things, and that idea of getting back to what we had in that room with when the 3 of us were in there, and that kind of fun of just coming up with stuff, and it's not like a specific story, but it's so much great stuff comes out of that. And I think really in your life you want to have good times like
oh, absolutely,
with while you're doing something, and it that sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but to me that's what I kind of like. I'm like, boy, if we could do it and get a group of people together, it'd be the best.
Yeah, I agree. I would be fun just to throw. It's almost like going to lunch with people and everyone just trying to make the other person laugh, and I think these characters just have a lot of potential. They're just so stupid, and I'm a huge fan of stupid humor, And Daffy Duck, like I said, just greed and just I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. I'm going off the rails. Just stop me. Yeah.
No, it's perfectly
but yeah,
fine,
just having friends and shooting ideas and just trying to shock each other and all that. That would be the funnest.
That's
and
the
having
best
kind of
part
no
about life.
boundaries about it too. Just kind of whatever is contemporary, whatever is the past, whatever is just kind of just whatever is funny.
That's the best part about life, man. Getting to share something with somebody, it's I think we do a huge disservice to specifically my generation, because I heard it so much. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys heard it too. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. That is the most bullshit quote motivational thing. And absolutely not, dude. I love, and I'm sure you guys love what you do too. I love what I do for a living. I'm not good at very many things. I'm very good at cooking, right? I fucking suck at so many things. It took me a long time. Military, wasn't good at it. Didn't like people telling me what to do. I'm in a job where people tell me what to do now, but I've kind of got some carte blanche. I can kind of like, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I'm gonna just go ahead and do what I want to do because I know it's the right thing to do. It's the right way, and you'll thank me later type of thing. Sometimes it works out for me great. Sometimes it's not too great for me. But nonetheless, man, it's like when you love what you do, it's hard as fuck. But the most important thing you can do is find something that's rewarding, whether it's emotional, spiritual, mentally, physically, what have you, financially, and then getting to spend that with people like at home, and then get to do it with people at work, because most of the time, whatever job you do, half the time you spend more time with the people at work than you do with the people at home. So you might as well do it with some fun people. And it sounds like what you guys are trying to do is get the group back together. It's like the Blues Brothers. You're trying to gather up all the members, trying to get them back together and do one last hoorah, and I hope you guys get to do that because like I said, the artwork you guys sent over, the Bible you sent over, it's fun. There's so much potential here. I hope somebody else that has a shit ton of money, that has a network, Netflix, Cartoon Net. Well, don't go to Cartoon Network. There's some shit happening with those guys. Go anywhere else, man. Fox, the animation domination, man. I would love to see this go somewhere because, like I said, I think it's got a lot of potential. It looks like there's a lot of laughs. Like I said, you had me visibly laugh out loud seeing just this cartoon character get punched in the nuts because there's not too many things that's funnier than a fart or a nut hit or a nut tap, a nut slash. What do you want to call it, man? It's fun. So like I said, I hope you guys get to make this into a series. Um, before we close it down, man, where can the folks go and find it? Obviously, the links are going to be down below, but you guys got any of the social medias for this planned out and ready to plug?
It's going to be on the Synergy Animation Studio YouTube channel.
Mhm.
That's where you can see not only that, but you can see the other two shorts that projects that Synergy is working on, and that company is owned by Michael Benet and Cindy G, both former Disney Florida artists. But Synergy Animation YouTube channel
Mhm.
should be coming out the second week of September, I think. But soon after, but they'll be posting up there and let you know where you can see it.
Beautiful. And last thoughts, man. Jim, when you think about you get time to think about this one, Steve, so you'll get to go last. But Jim, when you think about your entire career, I like ending it with this one because I think it's introspective, it's reflective, You get to see there's a lot of people that listen to this show that are either in the animation industry like yourself or folks that are trying to break into the industry. So anytime we can give them any kind of words of advice or words of wisdom or any kind of like pep talk along the way, I think it's very fun and it's very inspirational. But when you sit back and you think about your career over these last 30 years, Disney to what you're doing now, man, is there any one thought, one word, one emotion, one memory that gets brought to the forefront when you think about your career in animation?
And it's not romantic, but
Hmm.
uh, adapt is the first thing that jumped into my head when you were
Yeah.
saying that. Like the ability to adapt to changing times. And obviously right now there's who knows what's going to happen.
Hmm.
Like things
Yeah.
are kind of in a crazy time, but we came in a really fortunate time where we're in that renaissance, that Disney renaissance, in the 90s. But then that all just went away, like
Hmm.
in after Home on the Range, really, and then Brother Bear in Florida. But it was really done in California at that time. uh so we're like, all right, well, what do we do, and at that time it was CG. We both, I think, went into that eventually. um I did a short film kind of in that time, and then 10 years, or not, oh god, it's like 14 years, man, we're old. 14 years ago I got into doing visualization, so previs, and for visual effects movies. And that was a complete different thing than I had done at Disney, or in CG. kind of dealing with big action movies and all of that. But it was something that I had kind of originally, before I got in Disney, that was kind of in the back of my head because I liked Ray Harryhausen and ILM movies and stuff like that. But it's like you got to be able and willing to adapt, and even like we're doing on the short, learn new things. Even as these old dogs, you got to learn some new tricks. So I think it's like never kind of just get honed in on something, so it's just that's all you're doing. Just be able to kind of like take in, because there's so many amazing things in this world, like Steve writes a lot. Like he's written, on his own some books, like novels, and I'm really into photography, wildlife photography. So there's so many things you can do and be interested in, and they all kind of feed in, like just life in general feeds into your work as an artist. So I don't know, that I feel like I said about 3 different things, but
adapt and
hopefully it
diversify,
makes some
ladies and
kind of
gentlemen.
sense. I don't know.
Yeah, adapt and diversify.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve?
All right,
Same
Steve,
question.
you're on. Get the train.
Oh, okay. Get ready for a rant and rambling, and then it just fizzles out at the end. Choose some of my career or advice to anybody. I don't know if I have advice, but I love Jim's advice: to keep open and keep adapting, keep learning. But one thing that has been a thread throughout my entire life is just keep creating. I love story, like Jim said. I've written 2 novels, and I've made a whole bunch of live action short films. And I try to learn something every time I do a short film with effects from After Effects or get into Blender or something like that. And made comic books, but it's always a kind of story based, character based. Just have fun, trying to make yourself laugh or trying to make yourself feel in some way. But at the end of the day, just be creative, and that's kind of why I got into this business. And what drew me to Disney, because they have such amazing characters. What drew me to any of these TV shows or books or comic books or anything. It's just the ability for somebody to take me somewhere and make me feel something, root for somebody, laugh with somebody, want to be friends with somebody, want to hate somebody, just kind of make me disappear in that world. And I love to try to do that within myself, and first of all bring myself to that place and those worlds, and hopefully somebody else will go to those worlds with me once I finish these projects and stuff. So yeah, keep creating, do stuff for yourself.
So, ladies and gentlemen, adapt, diversify, create. He's been Jim. That's been Steve. I've been Julian. This has been What's My Head podcast, and this is another piece of your childhood. Good night.